Yarlung Records came first.
Yeah.
The nonprofit Yarlung Artists came a couple of years later when we realized that we needed additional support for young musicians. When they're beginning their international concert careers, they need to have a high quality commercial CD. A certain credibility comes with a high quality recording that critics take note of. Los Angeles is a special place to be alive right now. We have Gustavo Dudamel, we have Jeffrey Kahane, we have Musica Angelica, we have Colburn School, we have the Thornton School at USC. We have, of course, Walt Disney Concert Hall and the Los Angeles Philharmonic. This is an extraordinary, Green Umbrella. This is an extraordinary time to be alive in music, and especially in this city. We have a vibrant new music composition scene as well as performance scene that rivals or leads anywhere in the world. And I live in Los Angeles, fortunately for me, and try to take advantage of what I am sure is another golden age in the city's musical history. Our musicians do not all come from Los Angeles. John Waltz plays with the London Symphony as well as Los Angeles Opera. Chiramella is an ensemble that was based on the East Coast. They formed at Case Western Reserve. They have moved to Los Angeles since we made this recording. And Orion Weiss lives in New York. We get letters and recordings from musicians from Taiwan to Italy, France, Poland, Turkey, just to name the last month or so, of musicians who would like to work with us. So while we're in Los Angeles, we are not only Los Angeles focused. The real challenge is finding the superb acoustic spaces, the great concert halls, and then learning how they work. Because even the great halls are quirky. And you were talking before our interview about how much you like Orion Weiss's CD. Well, Orion is one of our best albums. And it was also a great pleasure to make, and it's a lot of fun. I think you came to his concert. But we spent 7 hours setting up 2 microphones before we made that recording. Minute adjustments in a spectacular hall. Zipper Hall is a beautiful acoustic space, but even in Zipper Hall, it still took us 7 hours to get it right. Wilma Cozart is an idol of mine.
Right. Me too.
She didn't record that way.
That's the mythology.
No. Wilma Cozart had extraordinary hearing, obviously, and I believe that she was the driving force behind what we now think of as that Mercury sound. They used Telefunken 201s for most of those recordings with 3 tracks, the half-inch and then the 35mm recordings. At least my favorite of their recordings tended to be recorded on Telefunken 201s. But they set those microphones extremely carefully. Those were not thrown over a guy wire.
You mean place them?
Yes.
The actual placement and
Yes.
Explain how that is. What is
Well,
that?
today, if you're doing a movie recording or something with large orchestra, many record labels will record on many tracks. Deutsche Grammophon started this with under von Karajan's Reign, Tyranny, whatever. And the process evolved as the technology and the quietness of circuitry improved, that engineers and producers were able to layer more and more tracks together into a stereo recording. That has great advantages. For one, it's much easier to do quickly. You can set up 40 microphones in an orchestra and mix it later. It doesn't take 2 days of setup like Wilma used to. The disadvantages to that kind of system are that because there is always interference between different channels in a recording, once you go past 2 tracks, you no longer have just left and right. You have portions of left and right from every microphone. And you will hear in even the great multi-track orchestral recordings that instruments are not always consistent in their placement.
They're moving around?
Yeah, between different parts of the movement, say, depending upon how the mixing engineers are bringing up the levels of the various tracks. So that there is not an actual soundstage. You don't actually get the placement of the musicians live in the concert hall as they were playing and as they were recorded. When you do a 2-track recording, whether it's full orchestra or solo violinist, you don't have the luxury of any mixing afterward. All of the mixing has to happen on stage with the performer, with the microphone position, with the acoustic treatments in the room if one is using any, with the adjustability in the hall, which many of these halls are, like Newman Hall and Zipper Hall are both highly adjustable for resonance decay and warmth and hardness and all of these things. Real pleasure working in that kind of space. You have to do, quote, the mixing before you do the recording. Because
So
you're
editing in the camera when you're making
Yes,
film.
yeah. Yarlung Records has a specific sound. I'm not sure I can describe it as well as you could. But there is a specific sound that musicians identify now as Yarlung Records. That particular sound comes from a couple of things. It comes from the equipment that we choose. We tend to use all tube equipment, both microphones and the preamplification. Some of this is custom made for us. Some of it is original AKG or Neumann equipment with, in our case, we're fortunate, the original tubes in very good shape. Yeah, 1969. Those were very special eras in aerospace and the military. Mm-hmm. And the recording industry benefited from that special technology that was reaching its height during that period. So, first of all, there are particular pieces of equipment that we choose. Also, we've designed all of our own interconnect cables for specific environments and specific instruments. We want to be able to hear the wood in the concert hall, hear the acoustic environment, but still be fairly close to the musician, still have the piano or the orchestra or the chamber ensemble fill the listening space when you're listening in your living room. Subtle ambience, so that you can tell the difference between the halls, but your focus is primarily on the music. The best job we can do is to be invisible, to showcase the musician's talent and musical choices to the best of our ability, so that we hopefully disappear in the listening experience.
How did you get into it?
Through listening, through the audiophile track, trying to figure out with producer and recording engineer friends, how was that done? Steve Hoffman is our mastering engineer, and if I have a question, he's very quick to respond on phone or email or something, and we work together, and he's been a great source of information, training, mentoring, guidance, and warning, like Rabina. Elliot Midwood, who has a very fine set of ears at Acoustic Image here in Los Angeles, is very helpful. We do most of our final checking there on his equipment. He has a great sense of both classical music and jazz. I've never recorded in a studio.
Okay,
Only in the concert halls.
Right.
We always take the equipment,
Right.
like when you came to our live recording concerts.
Right.
It's all set up right there.
Right.
There's almost no equipment. Microphone or two microphones, microphone preamp, and recording media, analog tape and digital media. That's it. And our cables, which are very short, usually about 5 feet.
Really? 5 feet?
The longer the cable, the more information is lost.
You know, that...
In honesty, Martin, these musicians are of the caliber where they are very likely to succeed without Yarlung Records.
Right.
However, if we can provide that extra 1% or 5% nudge that supports them at a critical juncture in their careers, that's wonderful. The ultimate challenge for me when I started listening, I was a musician myself, so the musical environment was familiar to me. And this is what I most wanted to do. I feel very lucky.